You're listening to the Blacktop Banter Podcast, the premier podcast in the asphalt industry, made for contractors with contractors.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Blacktop Banter. All right, so we do our rounds in the winter months, and we go to conferences and expos, and I meet great people. Today's guest I've known now for a few years. We go to Ignite Conference together every year. We thoroughly enjoy that one. We attend PaveX together every year. Today's guest is Mauro Comuzzi, president and owner at the Paving Lady. Mauro has over 15 years experience in the asphalt industry. He's passionate and a driven leader who strives to deliver the highest quality workmanship, professionalism, and customer service. At the Paving Lady, he oversees all aspects of the business, from the smallest repair to the development and the execution of preventative maintenance program. His mission is to help preserve and improve the overall look of his clients' properties while ensuring compliance with ADA and other regulations. As I said, Mauro can be found at many industry conferences and on stage at some of them. And now he's come to be known for sharing his knowledge and insights. He's going to do that with us today. Mauro, thank you for joining us, my friend.
Marvin, thanks for having me, man. It's been a long time coming, I think, but I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we get to spend a lot of time together, man. And I think that sometimes timing is everything. And I think this podcast episode, you were telling me this is your first podcast, but you and I have had conversations like this plenty of time, and you got experience now on the stage. But tell us a little bit about how you get from Mauro, the young man, to who you are now, because you have experience. You had an asphalt maintenance business, and those guys were very well versed. And then I come to know you through the Paving Lady, where now you're taking care of stuff, doing content creation and whatnot over there too, which is fun. I know you got my big guy there doing his thing, so it's fun to see you guys doing your thing. But tell us a little bit about that journey.
So, I mean, I guess the journey starts way back. You know, my father was always in construction. You know, I was born in Venezuela. My dad was a developer and a construction guy. And that's really my first mentor that I had, or the first example in the construction industry. College, you know, I didn't know what I wanted to do right before college. I actually did 2 years in college, didn't know what I wanted to do. I moved back with my dad to Venezuela.
What'd you study?
I started with liberal arts, just liberal arts, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So community college, did liberal arts. I said, you know what? I'm not going anywhere with this. So I took a year off, went to live with my dad, worked with him in construction, found that love again in that industry, came back, and got a construction management degree at Florida International University. Yeah. So, moving out of that, I went into home building. So I worked for a general contractor in Miami, building custom homes on Key Biscayne. So anywhere from $2 million to $15 million homes.
Crazy.
What a
crazy gig.
Yeah. Some of them, like Andy Garcia, the actor, did his.
That's
crazy. Yeah. So a lot of very high-end quality work, very high-end finishes. I got burnt out, Marvin. You know, after 10 years, I became vice president of construction from them, was running 7 or 8 project managers, all the construction side. And, you know, I got burnt out. So I took a stint in the mortgage business and loved it for about 2 minutes. Was making an obscene amount of money. Yeah. Going home and handing my wife a paycheck for $20,000, saying I hate my job.
Yeah.
And by accident, I fell upon somebody who wanted to start paving and seal coating down here in South Florida.
Okay.
And, you know, we explored it. We decided to start the business. I said, I don't know much about that, so I'm going to do the business end. You do the field work.
Yeah.
We set up the company. Things didn't go well. He didn't want to move down from Boston, where he was from.
Okay.
And I decided to keep the business and go forward with it, and started to learn really how to seal coat and stripe from YouTube. And started doing a few small jobs. Hired my first employee, Wilson, which is still with me to this day.
Get out, really?
Yeah, to this day. 2008 is when I hired him. He's still with me to this day.
Wow.
And, built up a maintenance business in 2008. Probably one of the worst years you could start a business.
For sure.
And everybody thought I was a genius for starting a maintenance business in 2008. I said, listen, that was just an accident. I just got into it because it was kind of luck, right?
Right.
But I think the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I was in a position to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
So we built that company up, and we were about 6 or 7 employees. We did everything from seal coating, striping, concrete curbs, ramps, signage, paving, some small work. But I would sub out a lot of work, my bigger work, to Janice Riley, who was the original paving lady.
Yeah.
So I started doing a lot of work with her doing that. And as time went on, we developed a really good relationship. She became my second mentor, or my first mentor in this business.
Yep.
She decided to retire in 2016 and said, Mauro, do you want to buy it? I bought the company. We had 22 employees at the time in 2016.
Okay.
And we are now, well over 100 employees.
Crazy.
So that's how we made it through that journey.
That's about how many people are in my hometown here in Wisconsin.
Well, sometimes looking back, sometimes I wish I still only had 6 employees, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, man, it's great to be here. I love the journey, and we're not at the destination yet.
Oh, cool.
But
okay.
Part of it is that, that whole team mentality and having great guys around me sometimes that you see what you're able to do. And it's a great journey so far. So far it is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun to watch you guys do your thing. And especially now with where you've grown and what you do, we notice quite a bit online too, right? Of what you're undertaking, what you're doing. I was mentioning to you earlier that we bought a paver, and you were like, oh, that feeling. Oh man, if I could just bottle that up, right? Yeah. I think about that sometimes because crazy to think, but this next year will be 20 years for me. And wow. I can remember I had a 3/4 ton gray Ford, there's an F-250, and I had a 300-gallon tank in it, and I seal coated just myself with a hand blower, and I broomed every single one of them. And some days, like yesterday, I was looking at the bulk tank that we got to climb in and clean out. We got to replace a hose on our Crafco, order material, do all this stuff. And I was like, what I wouldn't give just to pull up to the plant, pump in some sealer, drive to the 2 jobs I have, and just not think about anything, seal coat my ass off, put a few hundred in my pocket, and be like, man, that was great. I wish I could go back and do that sometimes, but now it's like, it's a logistics thing. So I really admire the climb and seeing you guys do it. And when we first met out and we talked about the business size and what you all did and the staff and what you're undertaking, I was like, whoa, like this is a crazy level. And then now you've scaled, even since you and I met, you guys have scaled and done some bigger things. So it's really fun to witness and see. Can you give us a little history of the Paving Lady? Obviously it's a unique business name, right?
Yeah.
You don't, most of the time it's whatever and Sons or, Blacktop Enterprises or something like that. Tell us a little bit about the Paving Lady. Give us just a brief history.
So Janice Riley is the original Paving Lady. She was actually in the restaurant business, and she was in the hospitality business, let's call that, here in South Florida. I think she was up north, I think Indiana.
Okay.
But she was down here, and she had watched it be done, and she thought, you know what, I can do this. And she went and worked with some other companies that are still around. Driveway Maintenance, I think, was one of them that she worked for. Florida Blacktop was another one that she worked for. And she always knew she wanted to do her own thing, and she always wanted to be on her own. But she got her, she sharpened her skills there.
Yep.
And it was always, hey, do you know anybody that does asphalt? People would ask people, and people would say, yeah, man, I forgot her name, that Paving Lady. It came from something like that. So basically she was known as the Paving Lady before she ever owned a paving company.
Dang.
So when she decided in 1985 to start her own business, and she started, seal coating, some paving, incorporated in 1991. And she was in a very, very difficult market down here. Yeah. Obviously, we know, for those years back then, it was always a man's world, right?
For sure.
She had to be very tough, and she was, and she built the company to a certain place, and I think she was very comfortable where she was, and she got to the point where she said, you know what? And I mean, I have to give her kudos for being in it as long as she was. Because I tell you, it does. You were talking about the problems that you have with like, the logistics and all this. And it reminded me of a saying that my mom told me one time.
Okay.
And she said, little kids, little problems.
Yes.
Big kids, big problems.
Big problems.
So I think about my mother all the time and about that saying, because little business, little problems. The pump on my gray coat would go out back in 2009, $600 or whatever it was. And I thought that was oh my God, what am I going to do? But the pump on, the diaphragm pump at $900, $1,000. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to go out of business.
I'm done. I'm buried.
Yeah. I'm done. Now it's like, Mauro, the engine on this that's going to be $25,000.
Yeah.
So little kids, little problems, big kids, big problems. And that's kind of what I see this, We
replaced the, so we have a Duramax 3/4 ton or Duramax 1 ton that has been our backbone. It's a beautiful white Chevy that we will probably never get rid of. The inside expects what you would expect a seal coat truck to look like.
Right.
But the outside's pretty. We blew the motor in it last year, and I remember going and pulling it to the shop, and I knew the motor was gone. And to replace that truck, you're probably talking $80,000 to $100,000 right now if you go buy one brand new. Yeah. Immediately, with seal truck, it's going to get slaughtered. Like as soon as you hook it up to a tank and the guys go, God bless them, but you just can't do it. You can't keep it clean. Right. And I was like, why in the world am I going to go grab a new one when I should probably just put a motor in this? And sure enough, the motor was $22,000. And right, like before, my 20 years ago, my little handheld Echo blower wouldn't start, and I'd have to go to the hardware store and spend $100. And I was like, oh, I'm never going to make it, So it's just a crazy.
Keeps you up for 2 nights,
Yeah. How am I going to do this? God, I hope the blower starts tomorrow. It's just crazy to say, but that's a beautiful saying by your mom. But yeah, man, it's crazy. It really is, because I think I posted a picture yesterday on Facebook, I think. I didn't get to post it to LinkedIn, but it was my first booth. And Mauro, I had a 4x4 card table. We play euchre up here. This is a German area. They love that game. So I had this little card table, and I had a cardboard fold out with photos of my work taped to the cardboard photo thing. Right. And a Wiscoat yard sign taped to the front of the table. You've seen our booth at World of Asphalt. To think that that's where I started, and what we got now going on there is just preposterous.
So my first trade show was kind of the same. It was a fold out table with a black table cover. And these pictures that you see up here, these pictures, if I take them down right now, they have Velcro on the back of them. And I Velcroed them to the display. I actually bought a display, and in this closet right here, I guarantee you, if I go on the third shelf right here in the back, there's a banner that I had made, a banner that I would just hang up, and it said 1-800-SEAL-COAT, because that was the number that I got. So I said, you know what, 1-800-Flowers, people are going to just remember the number. That's what I want them to remember. Because really, Marvin, they don't think of Wiscoat, they think of Marvin. Yeah. So I said, look, if I have them remember the number, they'll always remember me. So that's same beginnings, man.
Yeah. I quickly upgraded, but we have the Blacktop Banner Success Group with guys that are just starting out, guys that are getting going, and guys that are successful already. But we all are encountering different levels of our business and what we do. And there's one guy in there. He was doing his first trade show the other day. He's like, what do I do? I was like, well, I said, don't do what I did the first time. I said, get you a tablecloth for sure. Get a banner. I said, I put blocks of rubber and like some of the equipment, the newer pieces of equipment, like on my nice new blower, I put that there because it was springtime. And then I put a piece of black carpet and did yellow duct tape for the lines going down down the middle. Right. And I was like, do that. Dude, he sent me a picture of his booth, Mauro, and I was like, dang, you started off way better than when I started off, right? So, yeah, it's pretty cool to see. It is.
Yeah, but that's great, Marvin, that you've got guys that will ask that, and you're there for them to be able to offer that.
You know how it was.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the amount of information that's out there now, and the amount of people that are willing to help, or and just the community, because of the social media, because of everything that's in this new age that we're living.
Yeah.
there's an endless amount of information of people that just want to go out there and be humble about it and ask the questions.
Yeah,
I believe
it's
that
changed a lot. You've been around it long enough. You remember how it used to be. Like, luckily you had a mentor. Like I had to go eat crow and be humble when I started going to the shows, and was just like, listen, I don't want anything. I'm just here to learn. Please tell me anything you can tell me. And the shows actually are, I would say, probably what helped me grow and cause this trajectory in this direction. I got so good at asking questions, Mauro, that I started a podcast asking questions and interviewing people. Like, that's how I got good at it. That's how Blacktop Banter exists, because Marvin wanted to learn.
Listen, when I first started seal coating, I had no idea that you could tilt the wand up and spray backwards so you wouldn't get it. I would spray paint. I would spray sidewalks, buildings,
the
everything.
face of the curb.
Because I'm like, oh God, what am I going to do here? I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
And then I started watching YouTube. I spent some time up in Boston with the US Pavement guys.
Uh-huh.
And I went out with a crew, and I saw the guy tilt the wand for the first time, and I said,
your brain
you got... And that was it, right? So
you cover yourself. Don't get me wrong. You're going to get covered in sealer, but it's better than covering the curbs and whatnot.
I painted a lot of buildings, when I first started.
Two-tone. Got that black two-tone at the bottom. Nice fade. We ain't even going to charge you extra for that.
No, absolutely not.
So tell us a little bit, you mentioned to it a little bit earlier that it's a tougher area a little bit, or was back in the day getting started. I always look at the pavement when I go to Florida. To me, the only place comparable is probably South Texas. When I go there, that asphalt has been in place for 30 years, 40 years sometimes. It is alligated and dry as can be at the surface. Sometimes when I'm looking at it, it's got shells for the actual, what we would put for like virgin mix up here where we mine it. It has shells in it. I really would like to know what's different, because you've experienced it now, being in the community and whatnot. What's different about paving, pavement, and asphalt maintenance there in South Florida?
So, we deal with a lot of things that are a little bit different than what you guys deal with, absent of, you guys deal with pretty much the same thing, but we don't have snow. We don't have snow plows. We don't have freeze and thaw. We don't have, those kind of elements that are beating up the asphalt, and that asphalt, doesn't last as long, right? Down here, we do parking lots that are in roadways that have been in place for 30 years.
Yeah.
They may be down to the last half inch.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest differences, and I did a small thing on Instagram about it, was most HOAs that we do down here, there's always one guy or one person that comes out and says, you're doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah. They know everything.
And realistically, I asked them right away, I said, well, what's wrong? What are we doing different? Well, when we do it up north, we put 3 inches down or 4. I'm like, well, there's a big difference between what you guys do and what we do. But I think one of the biggest challenges is, we just did a distribution center up in Port St. Lucie, about an hour north of us. And we were a 3-inch bottom lift and an 1.5 inch top lift. And that 3-inch bottom lift, let me tell you, when we put that stuff down, it was beautiful. When you were able to put down 2 inches, 3 inches and roll it and get it, our joints disappear. Everything looks gorgeous, right? And, the asphalt compacts really nicely. Everything gets rearranged. The aggregate gets rearranged really nicely. Most of the time in some of the new construction stuff that we do, we're putting down a 3/4 inch lift, the first lift.
That's crazy.
They build the shopping center, or they build the road, they build the houses on that road. Then you come back and put a 3/4 inch lift on top of that. So working with those thicknesses, I think there's a little bit of an art form for our guys, especially when you're trying to hide joints in in that kind of thickness. So, that to me is a big difference in actual asphalt.
Yeah.
Seal coating, one of the things.
Crack sealing you guys don't do, right?
We don't do it. We were just talking about it today in our sales meeting, and the only time we'll do crack sealing or filling is sometimes if a parking lot's really bad, in between milling and paving. So sometimes we'll crack fill in between the mill and the repave, to try to eliminate a little bit of that reflective cracking if we can.
Yeah,
because I don't think you're ever going to eliminate it. You could just minimize it. Seal coating for us down here, our biggest challenge is, and I always say God has a sense of humor. So, we have everybody down here wants to do the seal coating when there's least amount of people.
Sure.
And when is that? Summertime. Here, it rains every day in the summer. So, our biggest hurdle is the summertime seal coating, because not only are you putting it down and you would think, well, it's hot, it's nice and hot, it should dry. Our humidity when we wake up is 98%. So that water in the sealer has nowhere to evaporate. So you'll sit there and watch sealer not cure or dry enough. And that's a huge challenge for us.
That's frustrating.
It is. And, we wake up, we see that 98% humidity. It's like, you're in for a long day, because, until that wind starts to kick up and that day starts to go, 9 or 10, it's still 85% humidity.
That's crazy, man.
So the humidity, the thickness of asphalt, we have blinding sun down here. I mean, the sun down here, eats up the asphalt. And we do have a lot of salt in the air too.
Yeah.
So a lot, we're real close to the water here. So I think that all
is the mix design different a little bit? Where we're talking about, I was just thinking with the 2 3/4 inch lifts, is the base mix is going to be thicker, I'm guessing, and we're going to have larger rock, and then the top is going to be a finer one, or they're all the same?
Both. So typically, depending on the one I just mentioned about the one in Port St. Lucie, the bottom lift, the 3-inch was what's called SP 12.5.
Yep.
So the aggregate average is 12.5 millimeters, right? On the smaller lifts, it's SP 9.5. So the aggregate is a little bit smaller, 9.5 millimeters, but it's, when we do a job of 3/4 and 3/4, it's the same mix. There's no difference in the aggregate size.
In my opinion, Dynapac CC900G roller is the best roller on the market for driveway and small parking lot paving contractors. The seismic technology in these rollers is unbeatable for the smoothness and compaction they provide. Take my word for it, or visit Dynapac.com to find a dealer near you.
Hey, Blacktop Banner fans, this is Michael with Aquafault. Aquafault is the only permanent repair material for asphalt and concrete that uses water. And installation is simple. Just pour, add water, and tamp. It's that easy. An Aquafault repair can be open to traffic immediately and fully sealed within 24 hours. Visit aquafault.com to learn more.
I work closely with KM International to design what I believe is the best seal coating unit on the market. The Blacktop Banner Edition seal coating unit, available in both 550 and 700 gallon versions. Learn more about the unit by visiting kminternational.com.
Quick startups, fume-free, automatic agitator shutoff, a splash-proof lid, and pumping on demand, these features are essential for any serious asphalt maintenance contractor. Elevate your game with the Crafco SuperShot line of melters by visiting crafco.com today.
Hi contractors, it's Kyla from Wiscoat. We use Stencil Plus for all of our pavement marking stencils. You can save 10% on your stencil order by using code BB10 during checkout at stencilplus.com or by calling 877-372-6055.
In the past year, Jobber has been our CRM of choice at Wiscoat, and it's made our world exponentially better efficiency-wise. For our small seal coating company, it has helped build the solid foundation we can scale from. Jobber is now a sponsor of Blacktop Banter and helps bring this show to you. With this partnership, Jobber is offering an exclusive savings to BB listeners of 20% off for 6 months. To take advantage of this, find the Jobber link in the show description and get to improving your process today. So for us up here, we're like, you pave it, we're like, if you have to get on it in a day, you're fine. Because it's going to get down to, it's not going to be over 70, right? Like at night. So we're like, yeah, it's going to cool, it's going to cure, it's going to be fine. What about you all? Because like, if it's hot as I know it is, listen, man, I've been down there in the winter and been sweating my off.
Yeah.
Like, so does it mar real bad? Do you have to wait?
Yeah,
it does.
So one of the things that we've become pretty good at is managing expectations. Mm-hmm. And we try to tell our customers, look, Depends on the customer. Some customers already understand what they're going to end up with, and power steering marks are inevitable down here. And in the hot summer months, some of the communities we have here, got to remember, the average age is 50 and above. And if you've ever seen some, not that I love all that whole demographic, but when they drive a car, what do you usually see? They pull out of their spot, they stop,
and they
turn the wheel. So
and they drive through your cones. They drive through your cones.
That's a whole other thing. But if it's 95 degrees, that pavement's 130.
Yeah.
And when they do that, it does leave a pretty good mark.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to heat and sand it a little bit, but most of the time, you let them know, just let traffic get on it. Let traffic roll that out. And it usually does. But you're right. I mean, we have stuff that stays soft for days, sometimes weeks, depends on the weather.
Yeah, and sealer, I imagine, is just as bad. You guys probably do a light coat, I would imagine, right? Versus up here, we try to put it on a little heavier, but the heavier it is, the tackier it gets, and the more it mars up, like power steering marks. That's immediately in our contracts now, where you're just like, it's going to happen, because if it doesn't, then they're like, oh, cool, it didn't happen. But if it does, like, yeah, we knew it was coming.
So what I'm trying to get in the habit of is explaining to those customers that there's an application method, that there's no better application method than some of the stuff that we do. And I like, sometimes, if they can give us the time, I do 24 hours between coats.
Yeah.
If the job warrants it, you can get the money for it. And those jobs that we do that, Marvin, they turn out. I mean, it's
beautiful.
Unreal. Yeah, because all the moisture's gone, because throughout the day you're giving it 24 hours for that moisture to get out of that sealer. Yeah. And like you said, there's nothing worse than you put down a kind of thick coat, the first coat, and then 4 or 5 hours later, 6 hours later, you put a second coat down, and there's still some moisture in that first coat.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna last.
No.
Yeah. So, but when I first started in 1-800 Seal Coat, we got in the habit of using a 30 tip on that first coat, going real light. You'll see some holiday. We used to call them holidays. You can see some lighter spots, and heavier on the second coat, because you're going to leave that second coat for 24 hours at least.
Yeah.
So that allowed us to do it a little
Mitigate
bit better.
That a little bit.
A little bit.
What are speaking of that type of stuff? What are some of the biggest hurdles that you've overcome? Do you have like specific ones where you set out in your mind where you're like, this was a nightmare that we made it through, or like this was a huge project or a huge undertaking that we somehow made it through logistics wise? Or for example, I had one we were talking about earlier. I finally upgraded to a big giant flatbed truck. I put a 500-gallon tank on it, had it all set up. It was a little bit older, but not too much older. Went and got a full tank of sealer. Never ran anything through it yet. Was on the way back, and I blew a motor in that truck. I literally had no money. I ended up scrapping the truck and financing that beautiful Silverado I told you about, my white one. I ended up having to go and finance that. I never financed anything before ever, and I was scared to death. But within a month, I had that truck paid off, right? It unlocked in my brain of like, if you go into debt, sometimes you can shoot yourself up a little bit here, and that unlocked everything. But that was a big hurdle I overcame. Do you have anything like that where you were just like, this was a monster thing we overcame?
So, yes. I mean, obviously the day-to-day hurdles that we have, like you're saying about the equipment and things like that. I mean, we have that on a daily basis, and it's amazing what we get used to, right? And people say to me all the time, how do you deal with this? I said, it's normal. Just part of what I do now. So I think, look, so job-wise, we had a really tough job that was for the FAA, and it was a air traffic controlling station. It was off the airport, but just the logistics of the job, just the security of the job, just the amount of things you had to do prior to even start the job was unreal. That was something that really kind of challenged us a lot, and more, not so much the paving part of it. The paving part of it, it was a breeze. It was
a
simple.
red tape.
It was everything else. So, but I think the hurdles was the growth, right? And because we've grown at the speed that we have, right, from 22 employees to, I think the last time I checked, we had 115. that growth has been my biggest hurdle and continues to be my biggest hurdle every single day. But if I can think of that moment, the moment, like you said, that the debt, oh my God, I can go from here to here if I get myself into a little debt, but watch that, right?
Yeah.
So when we were running one crew, when I first bought the Paving Lady, I'll never forget the conversation that I had with my brother when I decided, and we had a little committee, me, my brother, and our operations manager, Ken. We've got too much work. We're scheduling stuff out a month out.
Yeah.
We need a second paving crew. So there was that fear of being able to keep that second crew busy. And I take that very seriously when I hire somebody and I take them from a paying job that they're supporting their family, and then I can't keep them busy. I take that very seriously. So it was a big step for me to make that commitment to myself. But I remember the conversation with my brother, and he says, Mauro, what are we going to do if we can't keep them busy? I said, well, that's not the story we're going to tell us. We're going to keep them busy.
Yeah.
And that taught me a little bit of how to overcome that fear and that uncertainty. We were able to get through that, and then we went through a third paving crew, and we got through that. And now we are at the fourth paving crew that we're putting together.
It's crazy.
And it's a little bit of it's uneasy because there's so many moving parts, as in anything that you do. But, I think those are the biggest hurdles, and it's really overcoming it. And I think overcoming it becomes easier when you have a team around you that, really is aligned with what we want to do.
Let me ask you about that a little bit, because that's a lot of people to keep company culture bottled into, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the culture there at the Paving Lady.
So that's been a very big challenge. I think our industry down here is very difficult. I think our industry down here, there's so many paving companies down here. And there's only so much qualified workforce. So in the field personnel, we have not a really high turnover, but we have turnover. Office, hardly any turnover, right? But I just taught out at Pavex, and I'll never forget getting ready for the class. And when they asked me to teach it, I wanted to teach the things that I wish somebody would have taught me.
Yep.
Back in 2007, 2008, when I was sitting there listening.
Yep.
And it wasn't about the sexy stuff, like grabbing a piece of, grabbing your striper and striping, or getting out a paver and paving. And it wasn't even about, marketing, because that's kind of sexy, right? Or going out and doing so. It was process, SOPs, standard operating procedures, goals, vision, all those things that I kind of took a back step to. I knew what I wanted to do. So as I'm putting together a class, I'll never forget, my wife asked me after I put it together, and she looked at me and she said, Mauro, what's wrong? Because she could see it in my face. And I said to her, I don't know if I can teach this. She said, what do you mean you can't teach this? She goes, you know this. I go, I do. But I'm going to have a hard time standing in front of a group of people telling them to do something that I'm not doing.
Oh, dang, Mauro.
I'm going to be a hypocrite. And I have a hard time. If I'm not feeling it, I can't be passionate about it.
Yep.
In that moment, I made the decision that I was going to redo everything here. And that's what we're actually doing right now, which fits in this culture, because I believe culture is very, very anchored on everybody being aligned. Number one, of what the company's doing.
True.
Number two, what everybody does in the company, not having blurred lines, everybody understanding what they're supposed to do, and having accountability for that. And I think that is going to put our culture in the next level, right?
Yeah.
And because it's very difficult. And two things I realized. I realized, number one, that we're lacking a lot of that. Standard operating procedures from 10 years ago don't fit us anymore.
True.
Okay. So the other thing I realized, Marvin, is I got some amazing people. And the reason I realized that was, even though it's not written, and even though we don't have that set way in every single thing that we do, my people figure it out, and they figured it out for so long. And I don't want to live that anymore. right? I
Right.
want everybody to know, and I want everybody to be, you'll never have a better employee than somebody that knows what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, and what they're responsible for. All those things, because I
Yeah.
think it gives them a sense of pride knowing that they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
So,
say. Knowing it, understanding it, and then doing it, right?
yeah,
Like they're just
right.
like, this is my role. This gets this part moving to here, so that so and so can hand that off, and they can do their part, and this
Right.
makes the machine run.
And we're doing it. What we're going through right now, I can equate it to, imagine being on an operating table, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking at your guts all
Mm-hmm.
over the place, and you have no anesthesia.
Mm.
That's what I feel like, as we're going through this process, because we are cutting open every department, every position, and seeing how it interacts and deliverables with everybody else. And it's really, eye opening to me.
Mm.
And I take that very seriously, because as much as I wanted to say I'm running the best company in South Florida, am I really? Was I really? And that's a big thing for me.
Right.
I don't need to be the biggest,
Yeah.
which, we're not, but we're close. But
Yeah.
I just need to be the best for me and my employees and my customers. Everybody else, the opinions, what everybody else thinks of me, it doesn't matter to me.
I think that's beautiful. I think it was beautifully said. I know I joked there at the end, but to be honest with you, you can, and I know this, you can have a big company. You can have the biggest in the area. We know those guys, but they might not enjoy what they do. Right. And
right.
it might be it might be big on paper, but it might not be big in the hearts and at home and everything else. And I like where we live in our little chunk over here. I like the size. I like
Right.
what we do. And it's like, yes, I could move somewhere else. Yes, I have the know-how. Yes, we could build or do better somewhere else, but I enjoy it day to day. And I think you've tapped into this thought that a lot of us have I guess we have theologists and philosophers in our industry when we have these conversations at some of these places. I think you've tapped into the thing of, yeah, we can do whatever. We all have the know-how to do whatever, but we want to live a life that we enjoy and do our work that we enjoy. And I enjoy when I see them, when they come with you places, that they're excited to be part of the Paving Lady and talk about that's what they do there and show it, right? That speaks a lot. It speaks a lot. They're there for more than a paycheck, and
yeah,
it means something.
And it does, man. And I try to be involved in every aspect. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm up at 4 a.m. every day. I'm usually here by, depending on the day, 7:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually here till at least 5:30, but not because I feel like I have to. It's just because I want to.
Yeah.
But I'm involved with a lot with the guys in the field now, and it's important for them to see me, because as an owner of a company this size, when there needs to be, the worst feeling I had, I was coming back with my sales manager from a lunch, and we're pulling in, and I see a guy standing outside the gate, and I said, "Can I help you?" And he says, "Oh no, I'm just waiting." I said, "Well, and what's your name?" He goes, "Well, I work for you." That to me was, there was no worse feeling for me, not knowing that this guy worked for me. And, that was a big eye opener for me. And, but I think it's important to have a place where people feel valued, that people know that they're doing their job, and they're actually part of a team that means something and what they're doing. So
what would be, we always ask for one good piece of life advice, and I feel like you have a really good nugget. I loved the one that your mom gave, that you talked about earlier, but from a mentor side or something like that, what would be one good piece of advice that you kind of stick to throughout the years that's really, really helped you out?
So a couple of things. I don't know if I have one. I have a couple, and I think it always starts with us. It starts with me and in my life, right? And I think that becoming the best version of me is not selfish. I think only when I become the best version of me can I impact the people around me in the right way. So, spending money on self-development, spending money on exercise, spending money on keeping myself the best version of myself, not, not my hair, not doing my hair, not all that,
I ain't either.
but keeping the best version of myself and whatever that is, and continuously growing for me, I think is important for everybody else. Now,
I agree.
I said two quotes at in my class, which I really, really believe are important in this day and age.
Which was stacked, by the way. I seen photos.
Yeah, it was stacked. Listen, I was humbled, man. I was
crazy, dude.
I really was to see that so many people actually wanted to hear what I had to say. So,
yeah. Well, I was at the Blacktop Banner booth and there was nobody there. And then when people showed up, like, where were you? They're like, we were in Mauro's class. I was like, holy crap. They're like, dude, it was stacked. It was good.
It was a good experience, man. But one of the quotes is about the equality of winning. It shouldn't exist. I think everybody should have an equal opportunity in life to do what they want to do, right? You should have same opportunities as everybody next. That's a goal, right? But the equality of winning shouldn't exist. And that's that the more you put in, the harder you work, the more time you spend on something, your results are going to be different. Yeah. And you can't expect, well, I do this. Why am I not getting what Marvin gets, right? Yeah. I did a podcast. Why don't I have 50,000 followers, right? Yeah. Well, the equality of winning, it should not exist. And I think that's very important for you as a person to understand that. The other one was, and I read this quote, and I forgot who said it, but the magic that you are looking for is in the work that you're avoiding. So think about that in life and anything that we've ever done. You know what you have to do. Yeah. But sometimes we choose not to. Yeah. So in anything that I do is, I want to go to this level or I want to do this. Well, there's work that's involved in that. And, or listen, easy. I want to lose 50 pounds. Yep. I know what I have to do. Yep. And the magic of losing the 50 pounds is either I'm going to work and do everything I have to do it, or I'm not going to do that. Right. Yeah. So the magic that we're looking for is in the work that we're avoiding. Dang. And I think that's a very big thing that I try to always talk to myself about that because of that.
Yeah. It makes you choose the hard path sometimes you don't want to,
well,
man.
Look, people come to me and say, Mauro, I want to lose this much weight. Well, okay, that's the goal. Okay. Well, what do I have to do to get there? Do this, and that. Well, I don't want to do this thing and I don't want to do this. I'll do everything else. And then what you tell them is, well, the goal has to adjust. Yeah. Yep. You either go through the process to achieve that goal, or if you don't want to stick to the process, you adjust the goal. It has to. You can't have both. You can't have both.
I seen a quote. Actually, it was a clip, and it was Alex Hermosi, and he was like, if you're doing something and working your ass off on something you're in your business and it's not moving the needle, you're working on the wrong thing. You're working on the wrong thing in your business. More than likely, you've built this great pillar and it can support whatever you should be doing. So get your ass off of that and go work on what you should work on in order to get yourself where you want to be. The problem is people don't like to get uncomfortable. Like we live in a world of instant gratification and comfortability. And everything 100%. You want doesn't exist in instant gratification and comfortability.
I want my kids to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah. And I believe that you have to do that for their own benefit, because if you don't, when they get into an uncomfortable situation where they have to have an uncomfortable conversation or face an uncomfortable situation, they don't know how to do that. No. And I think the best thing to do is let them feel that. I think sports is huge. Yeah. I know your
Eli
son
does wrestling. Right? Oh, dude, there's no more uncomfortable sport than
there's no more uncomfortable than being on the bottom and somebody choking you out, right? And so, that's very big. Sports is a very good introduction to that for kids. And I think today, a lot of, our nature is, I want to protect my child, and I do want to protect my child, and I don't want him to go through the things that I've gone through, but I think I have to let him feel uncomfortable, or them both feel uncomfortable.
You do. Yeah. So I've had some conversations with him as we close on this one. I've had some conversations with Eli because I had he gets asked about my upbringing sometimes because they're like, how did your dad become, what he is or how he did it? And I had a pretty rough upbringing. And looking back, like there was abandonment. I grew up very poor, and I had to work from 12 years old. I started doing roofing, and I had to work at that age. And I've had people leave me. I've had people break my heart, do all this stuff all the way through. And Eli and I were talking the other day, and he's like, he was asking about self-esteem, which he doesn't really ever ask about. And I was like, dude, I like who I am a lot. And he's like, how did you do that? I was like, I think it's the way that I was brought up. I said, I wouldn't change anything about the process I went through. Even though it was tough and I had to work and had to do all that, it made me who I am. And I think I'm a better dad to him in the end because of what I came through all that. You know, it's a wild thing to look back and be thankful for everything in your life, the good and the bad. It's a wild thing.
It's what got you here, Marvin. That's it. I mean, there's nothing, every situation we're in, we're here because of the decisions or the actions that we've taken. Right. And there's no other way to change that. So
you're here, but you're a sum of your choices.
100%.
Who you are right now is a sum of your
100%.
choices. Well, I choose to follow Mauro on LinkedIn, but where can we find and catch up with you? I know LinkedIn's the big one to keep up with you.
LinkedIn, Instagram, the Paving Lady. LinkedIn, the Paving Lady.
What about the website? What about the website? Is it thepavinglady.com?
Thepavinglady.com. Yeah.
Okay.
It's pavinglady.com.
Oh, pavinglady.com.
With the D, just Paving Lady. So
cool.
Yeah, cool. Find us on all those.
Yeah, follow Mauro. He's got some good stuff. And then you can catch up when he is going to be speaking and doing different things. He's been a great part of the community coming up. I really appreciate that about you, Mauro. So you can pop over to blacktopbanner.com and you can get information on the Blacktop Banner Success Group, which we kind of talked about here. You can also sign up for our newsletter, which has articles in it written by contractors for contractors in the industry, and also some word from our sponsors with some really great articles from them as well. Please jump over to missionimpact.com. That's a nonprofit that I support. It's in Guatemala. We build fuel-efficient stoves, provide clean water, and provide wheelchairs that are custom built to people who can't have access to those things in those areas. Very excited if you'd pop over there if you feel the need to give. Please do. You can also find Blacktop Banter on social media, and you'll be able to find this podcast with myself and Mauro on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Mauro, I'm sure you're in a lot better weather than I am. Like I told you, it's cool up here. It's like a nice 58, 60. I got short sleeves on. I'm probably going to go out and look up at the sun here in a little bit now that the eclipse is over. But I really appreciate you taking the time out of the day to join us and share some of your insights and knowledge. Always a pleasure to speak with you, my friend.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me, Marvin. Anything we could ever do for you, let me know.
Absolutely. I'm going to come down and pave with you probably next year. I know I got that paver. I'm going to come down.
Come on. Let's go. When it's cold up there, it's warm down here.
Yeah. I'm going to stand outside the gate and you're going to be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I work for you.
Come on down, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. All right. So for myself here in the Blacktop Banner studios and for Mauro in sunny Florida, this is Blacktop Banner, where we speak asphalt. Peace.
Take care, man.
Hey everybody, Marvin here from Blacktop Banter, and if you enjoy the podcast and what we've been bringing to the industry, you can support us through a one-time or recurring donation at blacktopbanter.com. There we have a support tab. You click that and choose your path from there. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please do us a favor and leave a review there for us as well. As always, we speak asphalt, and thanks for your support.